Hello, everyone. This is Sherry, and welcome to the She Said What She Said podcast, where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. Now, I have been away for a couple of weeks. I just wanted a little break. I had a few Spartan races that I wanted to focus on, kind of running in and out of town. But Coach K did a phenomenal job filling in for me. And honestly, when I saw who she was interviewing, I was like, "Ooh, I want to join. Can I just jump on?" But I remembered sometimes we have to take a break, take a little rest. I cannot be on this podcast 52 weeks a year. I do need some time to refresh. But I'm back. And I made sure I had a super awesome guest to really get me excited to come back because this is a person that I've been hearing about for absolute years. But first, let me introduce my co host. You know her. She is a multi time All American from the University of Illinois, the P to my pod, Miss Snacks.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Glad to
Snacks.
be back.
I have missed you.
Yes, my summer was dedicated to the babies.
Absolutely. And tell us about so you're a track coach, summer track coach.
I went back to club this summer
Mhm.
after taking several summers off. And we practice in the evenings because obviously the parents have to get the kids there, which is why I was absent for the summer and the late part of spring.
And how did your babies do?
So we ended up, I think we took uh, almost 40 entries down to club and primary nationals
Mhm.
in Orlando. And
Fantastic.
we had 17 All Americans and one national champ. So we did really, really well. And then we have 5 kids that did elect to go to the Junior Olympics Nationals, which are
Mm.
next week.
Okay, nice. Where are those ones at?
Those are in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, summer, for people that don't know summer track, man, summer track, you have AAU meets, you have USATF meets, you have different regionals, nationals. And honestly, when I did it in high school, it was really of like what's convenient to get to because you can't go to them all.
Well, see, for me, I didn't really know what to expect because when you run in high school, you don't really have to be at the meet at the beginning of the day. Like, even me
Mhm.
as a long jumper and that being the first event, I was in one of the last 2 age groups. So I wasn't prepared for having to be there when the meet starts at 8 o'clock because I have 6 and 7 year old babies who long jump and I have to be there to coach them. And then being there for 14 hours.
Longest times
Yeah.
of your life. You should
Yeah.
ask my mom because, I was a soccer player. Soccer games are, what, 90 minutes or so, you know what I mean? With the whole, and in eighth grade, I was like, you know what? I was like, I want to focus on track, right? I don't want to become a D1 soccer player. I want to focus on track. And then besides like the little middle school local meets, their first introduction to track meets was summer track.
See, my
My mom was
parents,
like, "What are we sitting here for all day, all night?"
right. So, like, my parents had it relatively easy. When I started running track, it was just with my school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. And then when I transferred to schools, my new school didn't have track. So I cheered and tumbled. That's inside, it's a
Mm-hmm.
few hours. You can eat all type of stuff. And then I got to 8th grade and it was like, I'm gonna run track.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, I expected that. And then when I got to high school, and she was like, oh, so this is what we're doing. Oh, so you're going to do it in the summer too. And it's 95 degrees outside. And I have to sit out here all day because you're in the
Mm-hmm.
first event and the last event. And
Mm-hmm.
we were just joking about this the other day. I've been in the track world officially this year for 30 years. My mom
Oh
still
my
gets
God.
confused at like race distances and how many laps is this and how many laps is that and what's a good time for this. And it's just like, you know what? Please just be a fan,
That's my mom, bless her heart. It's not for everyone. Like, right, I'll be watching, because I was in Michigan for a little bit. And I was watching the Worlds with my dad. And, I'm like, all right, they're saying they're doing this fast in kilometers per hour. What's that in miles per hour? Just all these
And
in-depth conversations. My mom was like, I'll be another
sometimes
girl.
now I struggle because when you go to college, everything is metric. And so I learned what was good in metric. And now I have to reformulate my brain because my kids are like, Coach P, I jumped 14, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is that in metrics? Because
good?
I don't know if that's good in feet. But if you told me you jumped 4 meters, 50, it's like, oh, yes.
We got it. I measure everything in meters. I was swimming with my mom at her lake house. I'm like, how many meters do you think it is across here? About 200? It's like, I don't know what yards are. Feet would be like, ooh.
I mean, I know what it is, but to translate that stuff to track, it's just a meter is longer than a yard, and it's I can't. I don't have.
No, look, that's 100 meters away. That's 500 meters away. Right? They jumped X number of meters. But anyways, yes, very excited to have you back. So glad your children had a great.
Yeah, we did. We had a really good summer.
And we have a very exciting guest because, like I said, I've been hearing about her for a number of years. She is a referral from my sister, who is a teacher and a coach. Now, my sister, who, as you know, is the equestrian of the family, right? She still competes in eventing and does that crazy stuff, jumping over things and running around on a horse. No, thank you.
I'll do that.
My sister coaches track and soccer. She's never ran a day of track in her life and never played a soccer game in her life, but she has been to so many track meets and so many soccer games that when she entered her teaching career, she's like, yeah, I'm ready for this. But this woman she has met through her school. We're going to be talking to Miss Jacqui Soule. And so a little bit of background on her, though. She is an absolute, so I was like, what do I call this? She's just a trailblazer. You know, in the state of Colorado, she was the first Black woman to be a competitive ski racer. She went to college on a basketball scholarship. She also ran track there as well. She has been a PE teacher and just influencing the lives of so many young kids in the Aurora district. So let us bring in Miss Jackie Soule.
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on. Like I said, I mean, you're an absolute legend, and don't you dare tell me otherwise, because I have heard the stories about my sister being at track meets and officials talking about how great you were back in the day.
They're just too kind and too generous. I did my thing. I did well, but I have sent out kudos to you two ladies because you guys are phenomenal athletes and so successful in your endeavors and athletics.
Thank you.
And it's just it's such a pleasure to hear of your accomplishments because it makes me smile. It really does. So hopefully I've touched the lives of some younger, young ladies or even gentlemen, as yourselves have been touched by coach. That they too are being successful like you ladies are.
Well, I appreciate it.
So nice to hear. You guys are badass.
Well, as I told you before you started, because you're like, I don't have the accolades. You're a trailblazer in the sense of if there weren't women like you who did what you did back when you were younger, there would be no space for Snacks and I in the athletic world. Your generation was the one that had Title IX pass, that took it, that grabbed hold of it, grabbed the bull by the horns, man, and y'all went with it. And you guys really set the scene for what has become now our careers. And I can also not stress enough how amazing it is for you to also not just go into teaching, but to go into PE teaching, because it is so important for women to have women to look up to in that athletic space. You can't just have male gym teachers, male, phys ed teachers, because that really makes everyone feel like that is still a male dominated space. And I really think part of my athletic success was in elementary school. My PE teacher was a woman. And so from a very young age, I just associated women with sports.
Well said. Very well said.
I didn't have that experience. My PE teachers were primarily men, but they were men who did not allow the young ladies to give excuses. It was like, if you're going to get out there, you better get out there and do what you're going to do. If you're not going to do it, don't get out there.
Right. Right. And that's good. That's good. They did that as well. But for myself, not but, then coming up, I think I had male and female. It wasn't until I got into high school where it became primarily female that were teaching the PE at the time, but I had exposure to both. But with the females, I can see, what you're saying, how it kind of opened up, the doors for young ladies to feel like, okay, I'm in a good place and it's okay
Yeah.
for me to be here. And it's acceptable for me to be doing this because it was such a taboo, on young ladies being that athletic or being involved in athletics and sports back in my day. So that
Right.
was the neat thing, getting that exposure to female PE teachers as I got older.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about, though, a young Jackie growing up. Growing up when Title IX had passed. Let's talk, though, about your athletic background, how you first got into sports, and how you kind of wiggled your way into that world.
I'd love to. So it started with me being young, and right out the chute, just had an interest in sports as a very young kid, and was always very active, moving and grooving, and wanting to be out there playing and having my body do things that I didn't realize to do, and always trying to keep up with the boys in the neighborhood, and did so incredibly well. So that's really where it started. My mom, kind of not agreeing with that so much, because back in the day it was, go inside and play with your Barbie dolls, but I wanted to be out there riding bikes and doing all the things that the little guys were doing. And so then once I got into school, grade school, it was, we didn't have athletics in grade school. We just had our PE classes, and they were just very basic, and the encouragement as far as, you could go further than this. At that time, it really wasn't, there. It wasn't until I had gotten into middle school, and that's 7, 8, 9 at my time, that I got greater exposure to sports and athletics, and through a PE teacher. And then also my parents wanting us to be, or have the opportunity to be introduced and exposed to as much as possible culturally, and had decided that we were going to start the skiing. And it's interesting that the skiing is what really got me started into higher level of athletics and sports and play. So as probably about a 7th or 8th grader is when I began skiing. Tried it out when I was about 10 or 11, and then in 7th, 8th grade, went up to the ski area and started following the ski patrol around, myself and a bunch of us, and that's how I learned to ski. A visual learner, and got pretty good at it, and it was fun. It was exciting, and it was so different. And then they had the race team, and they were practicing and had the slalom gate set up. And his coach saw us, and we were a group of young Black kids, and he said, "Hey, you kids want to go down through here, like my racers are doing?" So I took off and did really well. And then he got a hold of my mom. He said, "These kids here, your daughter, they need to, get on our race team." And that's how that career got started, with the ski racing. And at the time, like I said, there were no young Black females doing it, and there was just a handful of young Black males doing it. And then I followed that on through high school. And for me, again, the higher level of athletics really began once I got to high school. Through elementary, middle school, it was field day and those type of things, because I wasn't exposed to the AAU. We didn't have those opportunities. My parents didn't know. And so it was really just at school or during PE class. But once I got to the high school and I was in PE class, and as you were saying, and some of the male PE teachers, and the lady PE teacher, she just said, "Wow, you're an amazing athlete. Naturally, why don't you think about joining our athletic teams?" I was kind of like, "Okay, what is that, and how do you do that?" And that's how I got my connection, exposure to, or introduction to sports and athletics. And that started in 10th grade, because middle school at the time was 7, 8, 9. High school started in 10th. So I didn't really sit down and get more serious about athletics until 10th grade, plus with the skiing. And began with one sport, then went to the next sport, the next sport. And each sport that I did, other coaches would be watching, which was really nice. And they say, "Hey, why don't you come and try this? Why don't you come and try this? Why don't you come and try this?" And I was very good at all of the sports. I wasn't excellent, but because I just had great athletic prowess. I just enjoyed doing it. It was so fun. And I think more importantly, or very importantly, aside from just being athletics and the experience, it connected me to school because I was an average student. And it wasn't I didn't care. That wasn't going to be allowed with my parents, but I just wasn't as interested as I probably should have been by getting into athletics. And that experience caused me to become a better student. And so, thankfully, I became a student athlete, which was, also my blessing. Started excelling in academics and doing much better in school, and the interest and the tie and connection to school and the opportunities there. So then as I went through high school and 3 years and competed in varsity in volleyball, basketball, and track, one of my coaches said, well, they're having tryouts up at the University of Northern Colorado for basketball, because that wasn't my strongest sport, but she suggested that I go and give it a try. And in being blessed, I did receive a scholarship. And at that time, I think I heard you mention, unless you were, known as like the number one athlete in the country, or not country, but in our state, or in our school district, number 1, 2, and 3, then you didn't get a full ride. You got what's called a partial.
Yeah.
A partial ride. And so I did, receive that partial scholarship in basketball up at the University of Northern Colorado. And that's where I played basketball. And then, of course, they, had suggested that I run track. And that just complemented my basketball. So I did both of those. And I did that through college.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we were talking about before we came on. I was listening to this podcast called On Her Court, I believe is the title of it. And it's going through women's basketball, talking about kind of the start of it in college, kind of at post Title IX, right? And how it went through, and how these Trailblazer women were like, hey, this sentence of this law tells me that I get equal opportunity. So can we get a basketball team at our school? And so basketball was one of those first sports. And then, as far as recruiting, it kind of started as women that were already going to the school kind of joined a team, and then they started getting some kind of local people. And then like what you had, it wasn't this whole, it's not what it is today, right? The whole concept of recruiting women for sports wasn't really a thing, right?
Yeah, like it was really, really interesting to hear you say you went and tried out.
Yeah.
And got a scholarship as a result of a tryout. Like, that's unheard of nowadays.
Thank you for saying that. And with that, because we didn't have recruiters coming and doing that. And even like, it was a softball player, and she played basketball as well. But even she was a top player known in the state, even she had to try out. So at that time, we tried out for our scholarships.
That's crazy.
That was where guys were, they were being offered scholarships. But, as far as recruiting and that type of thing, no. And that was back in, I guess that's okay to give it the date, just like back in 1978.
Yeah.
And then even coming from, the neighborhood of my demographics where I came from, that also was really quite unusual, because academic scholarships is what they were pushing for young adults coming out of school to get minority students, was to get your, academic scholarships if you could, so you could go to college. But for a female to receive an athletic scholarship, it was unusual, and especially from my neighborhood.
And what neighborhood are you from?
I'm from, was Denver, Colorado, and it was called Park Hill area.
Park Hill. And where is that at particularly? I know Denver a decent amount.
It's, like Colorado Boulevard to Monaco, from Mount View, like say over to 32nd, that whole area. Got it. And at that time too, which was interesting, was, I was in the midst of busing. And so they were, taking us out of our neighborhoods and busing us far away to go to these other schools. But don't get me wrong, that exposure and going to these other schools, as I went to Thomas Jefferson High School, was also a blessing as well. Even though staying at our own home schools would have been just fine.
You already answered the question that I was leading up to, because I wanted to, because I knew about the busing, so I was going to say, where did you go to school?
Yeah, and would you have rather stayed in one of your neighborhood schools? That was going to be my question.
That's a good question. Yes, I would have rather stayed, because what we had was, and it says, it takes a village to raise a child. And that's what we had within our community, was a village. And I know you hear a lot of horror stories and, a lot of things, as I say, were going on, but within our communities, we were being well taken care of. And at the schools that I attended at the time, before being bused way out, I was receiving excellent education, because when I did go to the schools where I was bused too far, I was at the same level of education that it was when we got there. Not every single student, but that could be for any student in any school.
Right.
And so I guess we didn't understand, but I think the hardest thing was separating us and pulling us apart and dividing us. And, that was hard, because we came into the schools where we just only knew a handful of each other, and, having to adjust and get used to that was different. And then I believe that as well, for example, say for track, in our community, there was a wealth of athletes who would have been strong and run track, even though we didn't have a lot, didn't know a lot. But I'm talking about just natural athletes, purebreds by nature, that took and put and separated us and put us all in different places. And that was another part of it. But the experience itself, it was interesting.
How did they decide who got bused and who got bused where?
I don't remember back from the history of it, but I'll say it was as complicated as one side of the block of the street would go to one school, and the other side of the block would be bused to another school. And, the distances that we had to go were sometimes like an hour or so long ride each way.
Yeah.
For, little guys being taken away from their neighborhoods like that. Again, it was difficult. It was tough. And for me in Park Hill, going to TJ, I don't know if you're familiar with Montbello. It was towards my junior year. Montbello was farther northeast, that they added 2 Denver public schools. Where they had to collect all the kids in Park Hill first. Then we had to ride all the way out to Montbello and pick them up, and then ride all the way out to TJ. So that, that bus ride, it was just unbelievable. It was just amazing. It really was.
Now, going back to your athletic career, you said you were good at all of those different sports.
Yes.
Do you feel like you would have been great at any one of them if you had been able to focus?
I would have been exceptional at any one of those had I been introduced to or exposed to the same things that I now know, and know that you young ladies have been exposed to and have had the opportunity to be a partner and experience. I just didn't have it. When we talk about our track coaches, bless their hearts, and our volleyball coaches, for me at the time, they were just people who had played when they were younger. But the higher level of coaching that a lot of kids were getting, that were in the clubs, the AAU and that type of thing, I was just never exposed to. I didn't realize my potential and the ability that I really had until I became a coach and going through the physical education program up at UNC and learning so much more about sports and athletics and all of what it takes and all of what's entailed. I just wasn't exposed to that. And so my performance, or whatever I was able to do, mostly came by natural ability, the encouragement of your coaches to get out there and work hard and do your best. But, it's so technical now, and the differences it make, and the little differences that make have increased performance twofold with things that we just didn't know, because I just wasn't exposed to it.
Didn't you long jump?
Yes, I did. And it was just, at that time, no one was able to tell me the mechanics of it, except run down there, hit that board, and then land. And it just so happened by nature, I ran really fast and hit the board and floated and flew and got out there in the pit pretty good for back in the day, without having been given the mechanics and the understanding and the breakdown of the skill itself. And it was just,
as a former long jumper and current long jump coach, that's just beyond amazing to me that you were able to be as good in that event as you were without the technical mechanics behind it, without understanding, a penultimate step and a takeoff and a this and a that.
So technical. It's just
it's super technical.
And I can understand, and all glory to God. But again, it was just a natural athletic ability that allowed me to do it. And then on top of that, for me, In athletics, it was just a curious thing. I just thought it was amazing about what my body was able to do, what I could cause it to do, just knowing what I knew. And so that in itself was very interesting, intriguing. But like I said, when I when I got in college and got into physical education, took all the kinesiology classes, was, surrounded by coaches who coached at a higher level and experience in what they were doing, that I understand that, wow, I just, had I started younger and had this, how much better I could have been. I'm thankful for what everyone did for me during that time, but they just didn't have what we have now. And that's why it was important for me as a young PE teacher and coach coming out to learn as much as I could and to understand as much as I could, so I could impart it, on hopefully the student athletes or students that I would be working with, so they could have that exposure, because it really made a difference.
Did you go to UNC with the idea right away that you wanted to be a PE teacher?
Thank you for asking that question. No, I had no idea. And coming out of school, my parents made it clear, you're going to go to college and, you will get a degree. But at that time, I hadn't even thought about what it would be until I got to UNC. And again, was I exposed to that, where being in athletics, and you ladies can attest to this, and all the coaches around you said, well, why don't you take PE? Why don't you take some PE classes? And that way we can keep eyes on you, and you got all coaches kind of watching you, because you're filtering through their classes. And it was a kind of way of keeping us together. And then once I got into the classes, I was like, I can do this as a profession, like a real profession, not just long ago. And no disrespect, where there were teachers who were maybe home economic teachers and music teachers that were coaching and sometimes thrown into PE because they didn't have anyone. But where it was an actual, very valid and important a content area. PE became, to me, an understanding, it was just as important and relevant as math and science, and how, the part that it had in the overall education of a young adult. And that's when I was like, no, I can do this and do it, really well, because up at UNC, they had an excellent physical education program.
Well, we have a comment from Ines. If I pronounce that wrong, my apologies. You're an amazing, inspiring woman. I was truly blessed to have worked with you for a few years. It seems like everyone that has worked with you or known you, when they hear your name, they're like, oh, what an inspiration.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm humbled. I'm very thankful, because with that, I couldn't have become and be the coach and the teacher that I am without all of them, without all of those who were around me, all of those who I've had the opportunity to work with, all of my students, all of my comrades that I've taught and worked with, is what helped me to become the teacher and coach that I am today. So I couldn't have done it without them. And through those experiences, is how I grew and continue to grow. And it's just been amazing being surrounded by. So I thank you, Coach Ines. She's one of our volleyball coaches.
Volleyball. Okay.
Oh yeah, she's exceptional. And just as an example, her ability and her level of coaching is that type of coaching that I wasn't exposed to when I was in high school. And it's just like Coach Green and Coach Ames, for example, had I had them as my coaches in middle school and high school, most certainly, I believe, and not being cocky, I definitely, went into higher levels of athletic participation.
Absolutely. Now, at your time as an athlete at UNC, how was that? Like, what was the culture like for being a woman athlete?
The culture there, where women's athletics was beginning to become more accepted, while at the same time men's athletics is what was still most relevant. And so the exposure, what they had to offer for the women, it was still like 25 to 50% less than what the men were getting.
Right.
But we did well with what we had. It just, again, what we know now, what you ladies were exposed to, we didn't have then. It just wasn't at that level.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yes, we had our coaches, but it was, again, a lot of just natural playing ability. The coaches put together the X's and O's, but the mechanics of play itself, be it basketball, track, or volleyball. No, I can't say that for volleyball. That was different. Softball was different. They were really exceptional. basketball, because it just hadn't gotten there yet. It was
Yeah.
still fresh in the women's basketball back in 1978, where I came from.
Did
Now,
you
and some
have
of it-
to
sorry.
schedule your practice times around the men's team?
Oh, I'm trying to remember back. No, I wanted to say we had fair gym time,
Okay.
'cause we did get in the big gym. No, we did when I was in high school. Yes, most definitely. It was all centered around their program, and then we had to, kind of work ourselves in. But in college, no, they gave us that fairness, definitely. It was
Okay,
just
good.
that the programs, knowing now what I
Sure.
know, could have, or it was excellent for what it was at the time.
Yeah.
But we just didn't have what we have.
Is the beginning of it, right?
The training, the preseason, the postseason, all of that type of thing, just didn't have. It was just you were just kind of raw. You're just out there doing it.
And did you guys play in, sorry, Snacks, I
No,
saw you about to ask about. Okay. Did you guys play in like the same conference that the men did, or were you?
It's been a long time. I want to say, I
remember?
believe we did. Because
Okay.
when I first went to UNC, and I'm not sure, and I tried to trace back the records, I want to say, I believe, I want to say that some of the sports were D1, and then some may be D2. And when I got the scholarship, I think it started, women's was maybe D1 and then went to D2, but I think the men's basketball may have stayed D1, baseball and football. It was kind of different, but
okay.
I'm sorry, my recollection on that is not so good. But I mean, if we were playing like CU and CSU, Brigham Young, so then I would venture to say, and we competed. Don't get me wrong.
That was one of my questions. Like, Sherry is always interested in like the accomplishments and the accolades, but I'm like, I have a coach who's been coaching for years and years and years, so I want to pick your brain as a coach.
I'll do my best.
So I've been coaching high school consistently for about 11 years, and I noticed that my philosophy has changed a lot since I started to where I am now. Has your coaching philosophy changed since you started coaching, and if so, how?
I don't think it has changed that much. I still, have my same beliefs, and I believe in certain things that I know from my heart, that will cause an athlete to be successful. It just may be the approach is a little bit different, but I still, my philosophy is about, what needs to happen when you're working with athletes. It still stays in place. I'm a no, what do you call it? No holds barred type of coach.
Me too.
I go in hard, and I go hard in the paint. And it's done, out of love and understanding that you do this. I know that you can get here. And so that's, the philosophy. But with some of our athletes and our students, young student athletes nowadays, your approach has to be a little bit different because it's a different day and age.
Yeah.
But I still believe, you got to get in there and you got to get after it. And you will, reap the rewards and the benefits from that and not give up.
How are you able to stay so passionate and not get burnt out with because athletes are different now than even when I was a young student athlete. So like, how are you able to like keep that fire and keep your patience with this newer generation?
Thank you. Again, I thank God I'm blessed, and it's like doing this for me is my gift, and I'm blessed to be able to do so. The bottom line is I know the difference that it made for me in my life, and I know how it continues to do so for me in my life. And so when I think about that, and I think about especially the demographics that I'm working in, and with a lot of the students, same thing coming out, I believe the difference it can make for them in their life. And so it causes me to stay passionate about it because I know it's good. And I know it could be good for them in every way, because athletics, combined with academics, it could take you wherever you want to go, as far as you want to go. And one complements the other. And that it causes me to stay passionate about it, because I also see in working with my athletes and my students, the difference in the change that it makes in them from the day one when they come to me to, 2 years later, 3 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. And so it causes me to stay passionate. And there's something, a burning passion inside of me about athletics that I can't explain. It's just in me. I just find it just an opportunity and thing that you can do, and how it can be life changing for you and compliment
Well,
you all throughout life. In everything that you do, it applies. It can apply.
so Angela Harris said she can't comment, but I think technical things. But even today, when they're out and about, they run into Coach Soule's former students, and they still stop and thank you.
Thank
So
you.
all that
Thank
passion
you.
that you're talking about, firsthand experience of your athletes do remember you, and they still thank you for those lessons that you taught. Because I had a coach that he took no prisoners,
Take no
and
prisoners. That's what I was trying to say. Right. Take no
yeah,
prisoners.
and I needed that type of discipline and that type of structure. Not to say my parent, my parents, I have German parents. Like there was structure in the house, but it's so important to have that, not just within the home, right? Within the school system, to have someone so passionately invested in you when they really don't have to, right? They're not your
Right.
parents, they're not
Right.
related to you, but to feel that
Right.
passion from someone that's not your parents.
And
And
see,
it
I was
is.
kind
It's
of
hard.
the opposite athlete. I came from my coach was very militant. Like you do this and you do it this way and you do it that way. And don't get me wrong, we had tons of success, but I was
Right.
definitely that kid that got in trouble because I'm like, slow down a little bit. I need a little bit of space to breathe. You know, I'm about to sneak these snacks into practice that I'm not supposed to have. Like, just give me a little leeway. It's like some of the structure was good, but sometimes I was just like, this is too much.
It's just a little too much.
Yeah.
And that is with coaching and being a great coach, is to know that, and to know that
Mm-hmm.
difference with each individual, athlete. And yes, you'll have your philosophies, but that's what I was referring to, is to know that athlete, perhaps one like yourself, that encouragement. How do I encourage you differently, keeping my philosophy, but to get you to that place where you need to be, knowing that she might want to, get a snack. She might take a time out. And I like that challenge as well, and trying to help each athlete individually to meet and be the best that they can be, but understanding that not every single athlete needs what every other athlete does.
Right.
The fact that you still have that opportunity to work with them. And that's what I said. And they, athletes, and especially athletes like yourself, all of them, they challenge me as a coach, and they push me, to be the best coach that I can be. And that's, I'm always growing, continuing to grow in being coaching and teaching. And that keeps that passion level high as well. You don't get bored. I know you as a Snacks, being a coach, and Sherry, you being exposed, to higher level athletics, I mean, that it does, it keeps you going. It keeps that
It is always something new. Every day there is something new. There's a new challenge. A child shows up with a different attitude or a different problem. You can, and I think that's what keeps me going. I never really know what to expect.
There it is.
And so it's really hard to just like settle in and to get bored with it. It is a little bit easier for me to get a little burnt out because I tend to go a little hard too.
Right.
And so when I don't always have the athletes that immediately buy in, it's like, okay, now I have to stretch myself and figure out like how I'm going to be able to do things that I wouldn't normally do, but that are necessary in order to bring this athlete into the fold with everybody else. It is something new. It's something new all the time.
All the time. And that's beautifully said. And that is what has a lot to do with it. You're ever growing and ever learning and ever, getting better as a coach and also as a teacher, because of dealing with all the different things that you deal with the student. At the end of the day, you're so excited about them experiencing that success at whatever level that it is, wherever they are, the next level, and being successful, because that's what, helps them to continue growing as athletes and even as students. And you see that and you're like, yes, because it may be that basketball, they weren't even able to shoot a layup, to where now, they're able to shoot a layup. Success.
Yes. And it's like, sometimes you're more excited for the athletes that aren't as good.
It's just very true. Right.
So so true, man. I was just thinking about how like track is like that sport that anyone can do, and anyone can get better. And like,
That's what I'm
just,
saying.
yeah, it's like people that weren't necessarily like the superstars, but when you see them like make improvements, you're like,
But see, that to
Like,
you know,
me, that's like the blessing and curse of track and field, because track tends to be the only sport in the school that's no cut. Meaning, if somebody comes out, you have to let them
yeah,
participate.
true,
And sometimes I
true.
don't think that's fair always to the coaches and to other athletes, because you
very
do
true.
have that contingent of athletes that's just there to be there. It's
Right.
something that, it's something for them to do. And you
Yes.
have to give them the same attention that you're giving to the kids who are there because they want to play their sport on the next level. And so my question for you, Coach Soule, is do you feel like track should continue to be a no-cut sport, or should we have the ability to say, hey, I don't want an 80 to 100 person roster?
Right. Wow, that's a tough question. At the lower levels, I would say, middle school and down, it should always remain, everyone is welcome and accepted. I would venture to say possibly at the high school level that maybe they, should have cuts. But then again, when I think about it, you don't want to, cut somebody out. This is something that they went out there with their heart and, wanted to try and do and give their best, and destroy that for them when they had the courage to come out and do that, and in their own success. Because the neat thing about track is a lot of individual, events that you can do where we can keep them and work with them, and they experience as their own success. I would hate to be one that took that away from that opportunity away from them, because it takes courage to get out there, and it takes guts, and then that starts creating that self-confidence in that athlete who's not your stellar athlete, which carries in life for them. And that's what I was saying about getting involved in athletics. It caused me to be a more confident person all across the board, which it flowed into all of my life, of everything that I did. I believed in myself, and I had confidence in myself, and I knew how to, or what to do to change things or to fix things, or how to be resourceful, or who to go to, not just with athletics, but with everything. And initially I was a little, really shy little person, and in the background, it helped me to stand up and stand tall and accept the challenges in life. And that's really too what we're teaching. We teach as well as coaches, and we're teaching them about real life. It's going to be tough. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but every day you get in there and give it your very best, show up and show out every single day.
My sister
Jody
just
had a-
said, yeah, I'd rather cut for attitude than talent. And yeah,
Right.
That's where I'm at with
You
it.
said,
too.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
sometimes you're not allowed to cut those kids either, because
yeah,
you
I
are
could,
a no-cut sport.
Yeah, like the kid that is going to come every day and do their
Yes.
best, but they're the slowest person in the whole state.
Right. Okay.
I would definitely keep them.
Yeah.
But like the fast kid
yeah.
that's the teen cancer, like I would rather not keep that.
And and I think that's something that coaching staff should be able to decide. With their athletic director or whatever. I think that should be in place, because that's not fair to all the rest of it. And it only takes one, and we know this as coaches, like you said, the cancer, to especially for sometimes young ladies at lower levels, it just goes like wildfires. Like, who set the fire? I want to know.
Yeah, and it'll be one girl, and that one girl's attitude,
and they fall out, and it's just like it's domino effect, and you're like, what just happened here? So I think that would be fair to have in place, but of course, there'd have to be a chain of events that has to take place, not just, oh, I can't stand your attitude, you're out of here.
Yeah.
But definitely a 3-strike type of thing that's fair, because other than that, they don't want to be there anyway. They just want to cause problems.
Exactly.
So you're wasting our valuable time that we could be using with other athletes and wannabe athletes who are there. So
and that does lead into
what
another.
What do you ladies think? What do you think about cutting track?
Well, I would agree with my sister. A bad attitude, you gotta go. It's a poison to the team. It's a cancer to the team. I know at the collegiate level, they will have more walk-ons on because it helps with the numbers to keep. You can boost up the number of female athletes that are walk-ons on a track team versus football. But at the NCAA level, it's not expected that the coach is going to give as much attention to those peer just walk on. You know what I mean? They're going to be there to do stuff at practice and run in like, 2 or 3 home meets, and that's it. You know what I mean? The coaches aren't expected to give them that one-on-one attention and, fair treatment like you would maybe at the high school level.
See, for me, cuts for me is kind of a twofold thing. I want to be able to eliminate the kids that don't have a good attitude, but I also don't think track rosters should be 80 to 100 kids.
Okay.
It's just a lot,
for
coaches. There's only so
and
much a coach can do.
And you always, there's inevitably one kid that kind of falls through the cracks because they're not great, but they're not really, really bad. So, the really, really good kids and the really, really bad kids are the ones that usually get the most attention. And the ones who, if they had a little bit more attention, would be great. Those are the ones that kind of fall through the cracks. So for me, I would like to have roster limits just for that reason.
It's the same as school, right? The A kids and the D kids with the most
class sizes,
the C kids fall through the cracks.
And I'm like a really hands-on, like personal coach. Like I want to know my kids, and it's really hard to know 80 kids. Even if you split it up into event areas, you coach short sprints. Everybody thinks they're a short sprinter.
Yep. So, especially at the young age, everyone wants to be a short sprinter.
And everybody's mom thinks they can run the 100 and the 200. So my group is always really, really big.
Yeah.
And I've found ways to combat that. I just make sure that my practices are always hard and always at a high level. So if you're not on the team to work, you're gonna cut yourself because you're not gonna want to be there. But it's like it would be nice to like not have to find ways around those types of huge rosters.
And as my sister said, not to sound like a jerk, you always sound like a jerk, Jody. Obviously, you work with the attitude first and work out any personal issues,
of course,
big thing, and give allowances. But some just don't want to be there, and that's the thing. You can't force a kid to care. You know what I mean? If the parents are forcing them to do the track or they had to do it, if the kid doesn't want to do it, then
I ask.
Yeah,
I specifically ask some of my kids who I notice aren't really like into it forever. Like, are you here because you want to run track, or are you here because your coach from your fall sport wants you to keep in shape in the spring and that's what you're doing, or your mom used to run track and that's what she wants you to do? And it's like, depending on the answer, it'll be like, okay, well, since you have to be here, I'm not going to be on you like everybody else, but you still have to do the workout. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be on you to run it at 95% because your goal is not to get better.
Yep.
Your goal is just to be here. So I'm going to let you just be here, but you need to be here quietly.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's and here's another perspective too, again, from our volleyball coach. I didn't join track until my senior year. I kicked myself in the butt for waiting so long to join. I ended up placing second in shot put and first in discus throughout the season. Not bad for my first year. I mean, not bad for any year. If there was a cut, I would have never experienced the sport and felt successful on a different level.
Maybe not, because you still have to be able to identify when you're doing your tryouts who can throw, who can jump, who can run.
Fair. And that's the thing too, is the person doing the cuts or making that roster has to be able to understand how to pick out that pure raw talent, like hers.
And then also that talent they don't show up right at the beginning. If they're one of the late bloomers and they come on towards the end. You have to be able to just determine and decide that difference as well. And then some of the kids, like I said, where they have an attitude, is it possible to work that attitude out of them? And then at the end of the day, no, then
you gotta go.
Yeah.
Jody had another question. The girls and the boys.
Yeah, we're talking on the day about coaching girls versus boys. How might you approach girls and boys differently? And Jackie, do you approach boys and girls differently?
When I was coaching in high school, the high school level, I have to say that I didn't approach it differently. You're here, and this is varsity sport.
Yeah.
You're out for this varsity sport. We're taking it and we're going in and we're going hard in the paint. Working at the middle school level, yes, the approach is different because for me, young ladies at that level, they just can't take it. One or two maybe, but their emotional or maturational state doesn't allow them to receive and accept it as you would do with the boys who are in middle school. You can still get in the paint. You can go hard in the paint with the middle school guys, and they're like, oh, well, okay. But for the young ladies in middle school, for me, you gotta walk, kind of carefully, and you gotta feel your way with them, because they're not, really, they're not able to deal with that at that maturation state quite yet. I don't feel. And there's a way, to work around on that, because I still believe you got to get after it. You have the potential to be great. You can. I see it in you. I can't let you just come here and, sit over there and read a book and tell me your toenail hurts or something, because you really have the potential to do so. So I got to go hard in the paint on you, but definitely nothing like what I would have done with the expectation in high school as far as male and female. It'd be straight up the same.
And see, I've had a similar experience, because this was my first summer. I started off coaching middle school kids, but I was really young myself. So it wasn't one of those.
They thought you were a middle school.
Right. It was kind of like, I'm just kind of helping you guys along. But now you cannot go hard with middle school girls the way that you can with middle school boys. And then it flips once they get to high school. That's been my experience. And I can go really hard on my high school girls, but my high school boys are like, dang, Coach P, why you being so mean? And it's like, seriously, like that's not what I'm expecting from high school boys. But the roles have certainly, in my experience, flipped between.
But that's the thing, and nowadays, right, it has. And where the guys, they tend to, at the high school level or even higher, they tend to be a little bit of drama queens, and especially the ones that, they know they're the stellar or they're the star. A lot of them tend to be real drama queens. It's like, you're supposed to be great and excellent. Everybody's proclaiming this. Then why aren't we at that place? Oh, my back, my neck, my knee.
Because the star athletes, people take it easy on them, and they're really, really nice to them. And it's like, no,
because
like,
star, right?
You'll be a star in high school, and you won't be a star.
You will crumble in college if you're coddled.
Get eaten alive. That's a very good question. Yes, but again, like we were talking about, the challenges and all the variables that we have as coaches, and having to switch change from me coaching in high school to the middle school. Because when I first came in, I was like, God! And I think in one of my pictures.
Yes.
And thank goodness, when some of my coworkers are like, Jackie, that's a little strong for the little guys. There's one or two that can handle it, but for the rest, I had to kick it down a notch. I'm not changing my philosophy. I just had to figure out a different way to present it to get the same outcome that I was, aspiring for.
Did you
especially for those, I'm sorry, that we know have potential and talent, but I didn't want to discourage them and scare them to death, where they're like, I'm not doing this, because I've had that too. It's like, well, I just quit. I'm not going to do it, because I did, maybe going a little too hard. So I had to kind of change up a little on my technique with those middle school girls.
Now, did you start off going hard because you felt like you had to do that to kind of to prove yourself or establish your own authority, or was that just naturally how you were?
For middle school or high school?
Both.
No, that's just who I am.
Okay.
I just believe in it. You know what? And I'll tell you why as well, that I had that. One, because if done correctly, it works. But two, because I didn't have that. And you were saying, Snacks, the type of athlete you were. Well, I was one that, because I was just naturally good at what I did, I got to kind of pick and choose what I did, what I wanted to do, when I did it, and how I wanted, because I didn't have, that exposure to higher level coaching. And that's why I said, I wish I had someone who went hard in the paint with me, because the caliber of athlete I would have been 10 times. 10 times. And so I think that's why I say that. But also because, I'm here, and I'm here for a reason, and I don't need your help. What I'm doing here, I got this. And I want them to know I got this, and that I understand I got their best interests at heart, and you can trust and believe I'm going to do what's right by you.
And see, I'm naturally like, when it's time to work, it's time to work.
But
I'm really fun. But I found that I had to come in like going really hard, because I look really young. Yeah. And so
Indeed.
My kids were consistently testing me, because they were like, you're not an adult. And I'm like, I'm old enough to be some of you guys' mom. Like, seriously. And so I am naturally, because I go hard.
Right.
I'm very competitive, and I want my kids to experience the things that I experienced. I want them to be able to set records and win titles and things
Yes.
like that. But I
Yes.
do have to like throw a little extra stank on it sometimes, because it's like, I am not your age. So
I
Bless
ain't
your
your little
heart.
friends. I ain't your little friend.
I'm not the friend, and that's the
Yeah,
truth. And you know,
yeah.
but they try you, and that's
They
part of
do.
it
They
too.
do.
Like, you know,
I
but
know they tried my sister because she also
and
looks
she'd
like
be
she's in
right,
middle school.
same
But
thing,
so
and
my
that same. Oh,
sister,
I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no,
I
I was
think
saying
Jody.
she had a comment about it's almost like girls expect to have to work hard for it because women athletes are always fighting for respect. But boys are used to being told they're great and don't have to work for it. Man, people definitely, I know Snacks has dealt with this. I know I've dealt with it. There's a certain level of man when they're like, oh, I was a college athlete. They want to like bump themselves up to like try to like test you, to see how
Mm-hmm.
good you were when they wouldn't have done that to another dude.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so how do
Yeah.
you feel, Jackie, about like, did you ever feel like you had to like, people like kind of look down upon you more as a woman, that you had to like earn their respect, or did you just
You know,
not
I
care
think
about
I
it,
was
or
so
feel
consumed.
that? Mm-hmm.
I think I was so consumed with what I was doing and the enjoyment and the pleasure that I was getting from what I was doing. I didn't really pay attention to that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't affect me because I
Okay.
was in a zone with what it
Mhm.
was that I was doing. And thank God for those who surrounded me, which were my coaches, even if they were coaches that weren't coaches who were at the same level as the coaches that you now
Mm-hmm.
experience or are working with. Um, they had me. So that outside stuff, I really, no, I didn't feel like I had to. Because even with the skiing, it was just like, they were like, oh my gosh, we need you, you got to come here, da, 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 da. And they were kind of,
Mm-hmm.
not paying attention to the guys that I was up there skiing with. So no, I didn't feel like I had to fight. No, not at all.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever feel like you have men mansplaining, like something like basketball or track to you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, babe.
Oh, I'm saying, do you ever get mansplained, basketball or track? Like if you tell,
Mansplain. I'm sorry, that escapes me.
oh, you don't know mansplaining? Oh,
It's
it's
the
when,
sexist explaining of something that you already know, but are
Oh,
yeah,
presumed
yeah. You
to
know, when
not
the guy is
know
like, I'll
because
be
you're a
like, yeah,
woman.
yeah. I'm like, oh yeah,
okay.
I ran the 400, and he'll be like, oh
And
well, from my time of running it twice in high school,
I
In
let
love
me
high
it.
tell you
school,
all
no, in
about
eighth grade.
that.
Right? And see again, and me coming up, I had all female coaches.
That's
So I didn't
wonderful.
have
Yeah.
now the
Okay.
mansplaining, yes, most definitely in coaching. Once I got, into coaching, then yes,
Yeah.
most definitely, yeah, that's cute. I like that. And then you do like this, you're like, okay,
Yeah, like I know,
yeah,
and I've
okay,
known it for years
okay.
now. But
Thank
thanks.
you. Yeah, I knew that.
I
I got
actually
that.
like I had to stop and say it's like one of my very good friends. I was like, and I won't say his name because I want to show throw him on the bus that much. But I was with some people and I was like, I'm sorry, we're gonna take a time out. Are you trying to mansplain track and field to me?
Oh.
And everyone just looked there
Yeah, like please
because
just don't.
sometimes your opinion actually it doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but in this case, it didn't matter because you were trying to say a different fact to me.
There
So
you go.
Sometimes I let them get their little bit off, but then sometimes it's just like, I'm gonna stop you right
yeah,
there.
yeah, right. At a certain point, you're like, let's go ahead, let's back this up. And let me remind you that the Pennsylvania State University gave me a partial scholarship to run around an oval one time. So
Okay.
if you would like to tell me about that event, sure, go ahead. I'm all
Go
ears,
give
but
it
I'm
a
pretty
shot.
sure I
But
know more.
yes, I hear you on that. I've had that.
Okay,
Most
so
of the time, I
my
just
last
let them go
question.
on. They just go on and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, because I know. And
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah,
confidence.
yeah.
Also, that's the other part of it. The confidence that you have, and as soon as they leave, you do what you know how to do.
right. Just
Mhm.
let them get it out.
Yeah, yeah.
My
It's like,
last
oh,
question is this.
bless their hearts.
We are now coaching in the participation trophy generation.
Mm.
Ah, okay.
How
This is
do
new
you
for me.
feel? I hate personally participation trophies. I feel like you winners win and you need to learn how to lose and you need to learn what you need to do to
Mhm.
win. How do you feel about how they want everybody to feel like a winner with the participation trophies?
But for me, again, it goes back to what I was saying. What athletics has done for me and so many of my student athletes that I've had opportunities to work out, it carries out in life.
Mm-hmm.
So many aspects about athletics is exactly what we're experiencing and doing in your life. And so when we say participation, do we show up at work and just participate? Did
Right.
you just, I mean, and get, get paid because that means I came?
Mm-hmm.
So when you get your first job at McDonald's, I came today, so I get my paycheck. You, on the other hand, worked in cash register, doing everything you're supposed to be doing. And that's the reality of it. And I think that's what it's creating, is this idea that because I woke up this morning, I'm to be celebrated and it's to be celebrated. We're thankful that you woke up. But I think it gives the wrong understanding and idea about especially real life.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about winning and losing, it's a difficult topic. It's a tough one to talk about. But the truth and the reality is that's life.
Mm-hmm.
And if we, can help teach or coach these kids how to do so gracefully, whether it be winning or losing, they're going to be better competitors in life and be far much more successful in life. Instead of, I didn't get the job, so now I'm going to get a gun and I'm going to go shoot up the post office.
Yeah, because I don't know how to handle this emotion.
Losing gracefully is so, like, I'll just say, like, this past month I had a couple Spartan races at the Spartan Stadium in Notre Dame. I got third place in my age group. Beat, a woman that I'm, friendly with on the course. The next week we went to Michigan and I made a couple of errors. I got fifth in my age group. She got fourth. I congratulated her. You know what I mean? I was very proud of her on what she did because, like, exactly. Right. And it's that whole thing of, like, just because I beat her last week doesn't mean that I'm better than her. I'm just better at that type of event. And, and she will, and like this middle one, this was one that we would be more competitive. She would destroy me on longer races. That middle one, those are the ones that we could go back and forth. And at this given time, she beat me. And I want to applaud her for that. And I want to give her her props because she did. And she did by a good amount. And it's so important to learn how to lose gracefully and also how to lose and not just lose. And I actually another combo with another girlfriend of mine. She's a competitive stand-up paddleboarder. Same weekend I got fifth. She got fifth at a race. Gonna get her on the podcast. And she was talking about how disappointed it was, but like what she was going to learn from it, right? Same thing. You're still going to congratulate the people that beat you, and you're not going to necessarily dwell on it, but you're going to look back on it and think about, all right, here were the mistakes that I made. Let me look at it from more of an analytical, non-emotional part. If you don't learn how to do that from a young age, it's going to be very hard for you to be in the real world.
Yep, I agree.
And that's good. And I don't know if you're going to say something, Snaps, with what you're saying to add with that. And we talk about gracefully losing. I believe also you should win gracefully, because I don't believe either. I have a difficult time with people, in your face. You can't give this, all of that. Win gracefully as well, because the same thing is you might be winning one day, and we all know as athletes, and the next day you might, be losing. So you need to also win gracefully, but certainly understanding about losing. And you use the word is tough. Losing as an opportunity, like you said, Snacks, to evaluate and decide, make changes. What am I going to do to get on? Let it be your motivation. That's what I used to love also about competing is she beat me this time, but the next time we meet up, it's not going to happen.
If you win all the time, then you're never going to, it's not going to be as exciting to win if you always win, right?
I'm not going
to. Winning's always fun, right? But there's something about, like, throughout life, if you've never had a setback or never had something to get faced. But you know what I mean? It does make it feel better when you're like, all right, I've actually got it this time.
That's just real life.
I can give you that.
Part of life.
We do have another little shout out.
Oh, here's another one of my
from Kelly Linder. Thank you for your many years of dedication to Aurora Public Schools. You have been an incredible role model to students and staff.
God bless you. Thank you, Kelly. Thank all of you that have written in and left comment. It just makes my heart sing. I can't thank you enough. And it's like I said, like them, they're the reason that I am who I am and I do what I do. The teachers, the staff, the students. It really is. And I'm thankful. I'm honored and I'm blessed because I couldn't be or have done what I've done up to this point without all of you.
And I'm going to actually leave our final question to who other else but my sister, because she asked great questions. What are some of your proudest coaching or PE teaching moments? Since it's the final question, just give me maybe like one or two memories that are just make you proud, make your heart sing.
One of my proudest coaching moments is when I had a young lady that came out that had a disability, and she had come out for the volleyball team, and we got her in. Of course, middle school kids, they all had to play, they all get to play, but it was being able to teach her how to serve so that when she got in the game, she was able to, be able to hit the ball and serve the ball over the net, and the joy that it brought for her and the self-confidence that it brought to her. Now, don't get me wrong, there's 9 trillion million of successes that I've had over my career. I just can't pull them to mind that quickly, but that one.
Oh, that's like a perfect story. I absolutely love it. Jackie, and I did actually want to one final thing too, because she is part of the family with all of her fellow coaches. She's also a huge animal lover, and do you guys know that she loves horses too?
Oh, Cosmo!
That's my sister. My sister's horse meeting Jackie and saying,
we don't need to put a caption.
I love you.
Yeah, no caption needed on that.
You just go ahead and play that out, in your mind. You think the words that were said. He's an absolute doll. I mean, gorgeous. And if I may, he's huge. He is huge. And I don't know, Snacks, if you know Coach Green, her sister.
Yeah, she knows my sister.
Okay, so she little bitty something, and you see her standing next to the horse and talk about, athletic prowess, getting up on that big horse. I'm just in awe. It's just phenomenal. And see her, work and what she does with that horse. I'm just amazed. But yeah, he's a character.
He is. Well, Jackie, I appreciate you coming on, and I will come and visit you next time I'm in Colorado. I'm not sure when that will be.
Really love that and greatly appreciate that.
Yes, but I come out every year.
It was lovely meeting you and talking to you. It was so great.
Listen, you, Sherry, you and Snacks, you guys are just a bundle of joy. And
Thank you.
It just makes me smile and have the opportunity to talk with you. I felt so comfortable and relaxed and right where I need to be. And I'm thankful that you shared, with me, your stories and your successes. And again, coming from, my humble beginnings, I'm so thankful because now, like you ladies like yourself have been given that opportunity and you've taken advantage of it. And so, now you're out there trailblazing, and that means, a good thing is happening.
Definitely, as a fellow Black woman, inspire me. I want my kids and my colleagues, when I'm 20, 30 years in the game, like, oh my God, Coach P was the best. Thank you.
They will.
Seeing all of that, it just makes me feel good. Definitely makes me feel good about the choice I made to coach. So thank you for that.
Because you're right where you're supposed to be, and you're doing what you're supposed to do. And you as well, Sherry. Thank you for your podcast and what it represents, and how you're bringing to light so many, young ladies and men and women. I guess you have both, and bringing to light.
Mostly women, but
mostly women, and that in itself, that's a beautiful thing that you've chosen to do so. And to give us this platform. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Fantastic, wonderful experience.
Thank you so much. You have a great one.
You too. Take care. God bless, ladies.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
She's just wonderful.
Yes, I can see why everybody loves her.
I'm like, my heart is singing just from here. I'm like, I was like, Coach Jackie's proud of me.
And I'm such a old school kid. I could not call her Jackie to save my life.
I know.
I couldn't.
You are. Honestly, I would have loved to have had her as a coach. You know, you could just tell by her energy, and it's just that that X factor. You know what I mean? That difference between a good coach and a great coach is that feeling of them.
Yeah, and
in you.
I had female assistant coaches, but my direct coaches were always men. So I would have loved to know what it was like to have a female coach in a sport other than cheerleading, which is full of nothing but female coaches anyway. But every other sport I did, I was coached by a man. So I really wish, at some point in my career, I would have had a direct female coach, not just a female assistant coach.
Yeah, I never really did either because my high school coach was male, and college. It was actually a woman that recruited me, but she left, and so it was meant. Mind you, I loved all my coaches; they were phenomenal. But it's more of that I never had that experience of having a woman.
I had Tanja Buford Bailey got to Illinois my junior year. And so I did have some time with her, but I still spent a lot of time with Gary because I was a jumper. And then in high school, my assistant coach, God rest her soul, she worked with the distance girls. So, I could talk to her, whenever I wanted to, but in terms of direct coaching, like who's pushing me, who's encouraging me, who's telling me what to do, it's always been a guy.
Yeah, it's nice though to have women in that space. But switching gears, so something amazing just happened for 10 days. The World Championships.
Oh my goodness. I just made a post on Facebook today how they had me completely forgetting about football training camp.
I saw your post.
Like the coverage was trash, but the action was amazing.
Oh my God. So okay, so first World Championship on US soil.
Which I still don't like. What took so long?
Because we didn't really have the facilities, I guess.
We hosted the Olympics.
But that's you're right, Atlanta, Los
and
Angeles.
LA.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess no one ever petitioned for it.
I think we did. I think there's been a couple of bids, and they just never gave it to us. Because I know they were talking about they've been waiting 27. It's been a 27-year process to try to get the World Championships here, and blah blah blah. And I'm not too excited about, I don't know. I don't know whether to blame World Athletics or USA Track and Field, but every other World Championship or Olympics, it was this big, exciting thing, like with the athlete intros and the build up. And sometimes I feel like they depended a little bit too much on the Hayward magic aspect of things.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, these athlete introductions are dry and boring.
Right, thinking of the last Olympics.
Yeah.
Tokyo, there were no people in the stands, yet they still had everyone come out individually
and the last World Championships in Doha.
You're right. Doha was...
It was off the chain. And it's like, why don't we have that same? Like I said, I really truly feel like they depended too much on the whole Hayward mystique thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Tracktown USA. It's like, oh, the fans are gonna be so loud. That loudness did not translate well over TV.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, it's also like, it just sucks that Tracktown USA is inaccessible for a majority of USA, because it's like when you have all of those, I think the athletes were staying in dorms, but you have all the athletes, the coaches, the support staff from all around the world going to its tiny little place, Eugene, Oregon. Where are the fans supposed to stay?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I know you're seeing Facebook. There was no Airbnbs anywhere,
and it's like,
close.
How are you going to fill the stadium with spectators when spectators don't have anywhere to stay? And it's like, the locals know track and they appreciate track, but we're supposed to be trying to open up our sport to new audiences.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do that when you have the same old people who are able to have access to these things because the space is so limited.
Yeah, I would have loved to have gone. There's just no possible way, because one, Eugene is hard to get to. It's either a smaller airport that's going to be more expensive, or you got to fly to Portland and then drive
in.
That's a long, because I did that in college. And then where are you going to stay? There is literally not set up, and just the way like the mountains are and everything, there is no way to expand Eugene.
And I'm like, there's no way there should have still been tickets available once the competition started. But if you don't have anywhere to stay and flights are getting canceled all over the place, and you're already flying into a smaller airport, like, who's going to buy tickets with all of that stuff going on?
Yeah, like if it were in Atlanta, those stands would have been sold out. You know what I mean?
In Sacramento, where they had Olympic trials on that track, where Junior Olympics, ironically, is next week. It's like there's so many different places that that have already been set up and have hosted huge meets, because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Junior Olympics is surprisingly huge.
Oh, yeah. You have every age group.
Every age group
all around. Yeah.
from all over the
Mm-hmm.
country. And yeah, like not everybody flies in at the same time, but that's still,
a lot of parents, a lot of coaches, a lot of kids.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot.
And Sacramento's big.
Yeah. And so it's like, man, I get it, Tracktown USA, woohoo, I get it. But are we going to end up with, now we done spent so much money on this facility just to get the world championships? Are we going to have years like we had this year where every single big meet is at Hayward? Because that's going to get old really, really quickly.
And not even bringing out the fact that they're on Pacific time. Majority of the country is not. So when their final events are showing at midnight on Eastern time, how is that going to bring in another
I completely
audience?
get it, because they figure out how to I feel like they've done a much better job when we were on super international time than when we're just on Pacific time. It's like y'all can take 6 or 7 or 8 hours into account, but 2, 3, that's a bit much.
You don't know how to do that. Yeah. It's I would love to see, and like, so it was like NCAA's World Trials, every major meet is there.
Prefontaine is going to be there every
it's always
year,
going to be
no
there.
matter what.
Yeah.
Oregon probably hosts a shit ton of home meets.
They pretty much, they don't travel very much at all.
Because why would they? Then you're going to have NCAAs there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they're going to find a way to have regionals there, because you got to have
conference meet there.
Pac-12s is probably going to be there. Nationals. We have a whole nother world championships next year. So our trials going to be back, and nationals going to be back on that track again. It's like, I get it. I understand it's a beautiful surface. It's a beautiful facility, but did you see how empty the stands were for U.S. Nationals? You're not going to
there
fill
was
that
no
stadium
one there at all for nationals. And again, if U.S. just the national championship was somewhere easy to go, I would love to go. Right. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that meet. But it's just, I'm not going to put in the time and effort to try to get to Eugene, Oregon, for that. If it were in Atlanta, if it were in LA, if it were New York City, anywhere, right? Florida, somewhere there, put in Miami. Hell yes, great weekends. Put in, and like some of the comments were saying Eugene like shuts down early too. You know what I mean? So even like the fans that were there, by the time they leave the meet, all the restaurants are closed. So
yeah, and I think it's a dry town after a certain time too.
Whoop-de-woo.
Right, so ain't no parties.
Yeah, but besides the negative, let's talk about give me a couple.
Wait, I got one more negative I have to talk about.
Good.
And it's not even really a negative. It's just something that I really want. If you are a semi-track fan or a non-track fan and you're listening to us right now, I really want you to understand. U.S. women's track and field is undergoing a transition. We had no medals in any sprints or the hurdles. The only events we did medal in were, of course, we represented in throws. The lady throwers did their thing. Then, of course, the relays, the 400 hurdles, and the 800.
And the jumps too. We got triple jump. Did we get long jump too?
No,
she did not.
No, she got fourth.
That's right.
1 centimeter.
Yeah, it was super close.
And so what a lot of people have to realize is a lot of our better American sprinters are either in college or making their transition from college to pro. So this was a down year for women's sprinting, but it wasn't unexpected by anybody who knows anything about what's going on with women's track and field. Now, with that being said, we got to give the men all their props.
Damn, they stopped at Tokyo.
And the U.S. men showed up and showed out across all events. We had 3 event sweeps. It would have been 4 without the stupid false start rule.
Taking Devin Hester out.
Devin Allen.
Oh, thinking Bears.
Devin Hester would have been getting. I'd love to see Devin Hester run some hurdles.
Shoot. Yes, Devin Allen, the other Devin.
And so and then our sweep, don't big ups to the Jamaican women for their sweep, but they did it with the same 3 girls.
Yeah.
We did it with 6 different
men.
men. 6 completely, like there was not a single double medalist in the whole crew. And I think that's the more impressive thing.
Super impressive. I mean, it was just, yeah, to see like Bracy and Bramel and Curly celebrating the 100, and then later in the week a completely different group of guys like feeling that exact same joy that they felt. It was like, there's just something about that joy of celebrating with your teammates that, you know what I mean? And so you could just feel it, especially with the 100-meter guys, but then you could feel it again with the 200-meter guys. And it was just a special.
And then Noah Lyles breaking Michael Johnson's record. It's like, I remember screaming my head off in 96 when Michael Johnson did it. And then I was like, yeah, nobody's going to ever break that in my lifetime.
Right. And then Bolt, I mean, well, let's not forget about Johan Blake, who is, no one's ever going to remember him. But yeah, Bolt coming around, and then the Merrick, yeah.
And then to see like Noah Lyles do it was just, and he's been, it's been prophesied for him for so long. To see it finally happen is so amazing.
Such a beautiful race. Like every aspect of his race looked perfect.
Like that was the
best start I've ever seen him have.
Like he was in his preferred lane, the best curve he'd had ever run. He split. Your last 100 is 9.16.
Oh my God. It was, you couldn't have written a better story to it. And I mean, Knighton getting a medal, that young kid.
And like he said something that cracked me up. He like, yeah, now I can start getting in the weight room because I don't really lift. You look like you don't lift, sir. Like,
we all know that. Yeah,
you look like a child still. So not only do you need to get in the weight room, you need to go through that second half of puberty.
Right, I was gonna say, has puberty fully hit yet for him? Can he even grow a mustache?
Right, get some muscles, because he's just a little slight thing out there just running. When he like, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see some of these college girls. I really wanted Britton Wilson to go pro. I don't know if she might, now, or if she even had the option to, but I would definitely like to. Well, maybe she's like, well, I'll just stay in college because I could win an NCAA title. I'm not going to win no U.S. title no time soon.
And that's the problem too. So like Britton Wilson, 400-meter hurdles, you have, although if Sydney McLaughlin, if the rumor is true of her switching to the open 400 to try to go after that record.
Even if it's not the open 4, I think she's done with the 400 hurdles. What else can she do?
Keep winning? Try to go under 50 in the 400 hurdles?
I feel like she's getting bored. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In her post-race interview, when she was talking about there are other things that she likes to do, other things that she wants to try. I feel like she's bored at this point. I'm the world record holder. I'm the world champion.
And not just a world record holder. I mean, she broke it like 3 times within 12 months. It's like, okay.
And that's going to be one of those records that's like the East German 400 record. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
So let me just go ahead and switch on over to something else. And like Britton Wilson,
I could see Sydney coming back to it, maybe like 6 years or something for shits and giggles.
I don't know. Yeah, that's not one of the. It's like, remember when Michael Phelps gave up the 400 IM because he's like, this shit is hard, and now that I'm super great at it and I don't have to do this hard race anymore. The 400 hurdles is hard. I have done it. It sucks. So it's like, oh, I don't have to train for 400 hurdles anymore. Yay, I can do something different. And it'll just be, this easy type thing. But like, there's such a hole in the women's 400. It's like Britton Wilson would have been the next,
she might have medaled.
Right. She would have been the next big thing in the women's 400 if she decided to go pro. To go ahead and go pro. Because Mo has already said she doesn't think she's going to drop down. Because she loves the 800.
And I could see Mo moving up to the 15. Just to try it a bit. After she breaks, so I can see her doing the 800 for another cycle.
But she did the 400 and the 4x4 in college.
Fair.
So I could kind of see her going back to the 400 because
I could see either way, the going up or going down, especially once she accomplishes all her goals in the 800.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
again,
just
it's like, what do you do next?
Watching the women's 400 this year was just sad.
It was. But the fun part about the 400 hurdles is there's 8 women in the finals. Half of them were coached by either my coach Johnson or his brother Boogie Johnson.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool too.
And that's just so cool. You know what I mean? To see, like, it's the Johnson brothers. Like when Boogie was having the interview, I had to like take a quick picture because they look similar. When you're quickly looking, you're like, which Johnson coach is it? And it's just so cool. Like 2 brothers are the best hurdle coaches in the country. You know what I mean? To have like that half of the final is your people. It's just incredible.
I got to give some credit to Mr. Rye Benjamin as well.
Was
it you that told me he's about to have surgery on his hamstring?
Yes, having surgery. Like
bro,
this week, you might have already had it.
And he still ran under 47 seconds.
He still ran one of the fastest times ever.
Insane.
I think, he was so happy, you know what I mean, to get the silver. But the thing about him was he was even more happy
for Trevor Bassett,
to celebrate Trevor getting brought. Like, I have just seen that pure joy on Rye when he saw that Trevor got third.
So no lie, I have rewatched 80% of the meet. Of the finals.
Yeah.
Like I've rewatched something several times. I probably watched that 4x1 5 times today.
Oh,
I just keep watching it over and over and over because it makes me wonder why the US men and US women don't have the same relay coach. Because the women seem to get it done on a very regular basis. And the men, I get it. They're going much faster. The slightest thing could throw things off, but these are also
they're
men
still all going
100%
speed for that.
Yeah, these men have been running 4x1s since high school. And this year was even more maddening because it was the same 4 in the prelim and the final.
Right, they already ran it through.
What happened in y'all brains between the prelim and the final that you could botch those handoffs as bad as
2 of them? I mean, you have 3 handoffs and you botched 2 of them.
2 of them! And y'all are the same 4.
It doesn't make... I think the bigger telling thing is the fact that you had 6 men medal. Now, mind you, Curly got injured, so he was out. So you have 5 men medal. And of those 5 men that medaled, 3 didn't want any part of the relay.
And I mean, I know...
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm pretty sure some of it is the whole relay camp thing.
Fair, but like in order, you should want to be on a relay team. There's no pride there. You know what I mean? It's like you should want to go and practice your handoffs, and you should want to do that. I can't imagine like medaling in the 100 meters and be like, nah, I don't want to do the relay. You know what I mean?
The politics, and there's probably a lot of politics behind
it. And now I feel like we're really seeing the fact that, I mean, Bromell didn't want anything to do with it. Kung Fu Kenny wanted nothing to do with it.
You are 18, and your camp is like, nah, bro.
You don't want. Do that. It's time for the U.S. to make some changes with who is running the men's 4x1. Yeah, because when you have 3 medalists that don't want no part of your relay, that's a bad sign.
And I mean, I guess it's a good thing that we could have 3 men turn us down and still feel a very competitive.
That should have won. Yeah, fair.
But it's like, but you know what? The U.S. men were the Jamaican women at the end of the day.
You got to get that stick around.
You got to get it around because TT Terry, Sharika Johnson runs what she runs. But you give a sub 11 girl a head start, it's going to be difficult. And it was only a 5-meter head start.
It was a small start.
So it's like I get if it was a 4x110, we would have got the silver.
We sure would have, but
props to TT. Like
what was the split? She was only like 0.2 slower than Sharika.
And so and it's like I don't like 4x1. I applaud World Athletics for trying to do what they can do, but catching 4x1 splits is so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
so hard.
It's hard.
Because there is no way Melissa Jefferson ran 11.3.
No, no, I didn't get that one either.
Like,
But
no way she
I don't know
ran
where they're
11.3.
measuring. Yeah.
So even with her and Abby's handoff happening a little late in the zone, that still does not translate to an
that's not supposed
11.3.
to translate to the split.
And
Yeah.
you done broke a
Yeah.
stagger and a half on first leg.
Yeah,
That is
she
not an
killed it.
11-second
Yeah.
first leg.
No, she ran like 10.9.
How do you feel about Mr. Super Hater, Michael Johnson?
Yo, I almost forgot. Yeah, so Michael Johnson does not believe that the women's 100-meter hurdle record is real. He thinks something was wrong with the timing equipment.
But it's like, if that's the case, how do we not question every race? Like, did no allows really run?
Right, yeah.
And I guess he was saying it's because the adjustment was so big, like you rarely ever see a time adjustment of a whole 10th. But I mean,
it is weird. I mean, like, everyone in those heats set personal records or national records, but it was also perfect conditions, right? I mean, the wind was perfect. The weather is perfect. And they're also using a running clock, so it's hard with that adjustment because you don't have that.
One of those events that you can get pulled through. Like when I was in high school, I would have several coaches come up to me like, I'm so glad my girl is in the heat with you because you're gonna pull her through faster. And it's like, even though I was still winning these races by a whole hurdle or two, the girls behind me were setting personal bests, and it's like I may not have set that personal best if I wasn't trying to catch you in that race. So I do understand the potential of greatness to bring out greatness.
Yeah, I do.
I also understand the dynamics of a tailwind in the hurdles, and I think that's why Kenny Harrison had so many problems, because those hurdles were just coming up quick. Like that's what it looked like to me when I watched her race. So it's like, yes, we also have to take into account that there was a tailwind, which is why that world record is not the world record. But that tailwind didn't just affect her. Everybody had that tailwind.
Yeah. And she still won by like a hurdle.
Right. So it's like, come on, bro. Like,
that was a weird thing.
What's your motivation? What's your motivation?
It's like, as John Drummond put on, and what does John Drummond say? He's questioning daylight savings time now too, and all.
That was 100% to steal John Drummond's thunder. That was a panda moment for Michael Johnson.
Yeah. In closing, though, what's your one moment from Worlds? What makes your heart sing?
What makes my heart sing? Kara Winger. You win a medal. You win a medal on your last throw of your last competition ever. Like, nothing will Mondo clearing the world record is a very close second.
He already had the world record though.
Yeah, but 6:21 is insane. Insane. So that's very close. But no, that Kara Winger, that is my moment of the meet, hands down, no question. Oh, and her and Valerie Allman, because Valerie Allman also threw herself into medal position on one of her last throws of the competition.
I mean, she threw herself into the finals on her last try,
right?
For the
like,
because
she had like, I was just about to say, she had like 3 fouls in a row. So that's a very close second, but she's not getting ready to retire. We'll see her again next year in the World Championship. So, but no, my moment of the meet was Kara Winger. I was crying like a baby because I'm a crybaby.
I know.
But yes, that's my moment of the meet.
And I mean, Trey Hardy on there thinks that he was like crying.
I love Trey Hardy. Can we just say, we can never have another track meet without Trey Hardy or Lee Diffie. I can take or leave everybody else, but I love Auto.
I love Auto.
I love them. Don't get me wrong. but I need Trey Hardy and Lee Diffie.
We need Lee. Yeah, we need them both. They're
is
everything.
A gem.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from a motorsports background, for him to be as good as he is announcing track meets, I love him.
So you took my moment, but I'll take a different one. I'm going to take a thing move just because even though we all knew she was the favorite,
let me tell you something.
Won by like this much.
Keely is on her heels.
Has some fire to her. That last 150 was insane. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it.
Keely is on her heels, and
she tried to come up on the inside. It just didn't work. And
next year, it is not going. I predict Miss Mo loses her first race.
You think
next year
Mo's going to lose at Worlds next year?
No, I don't think it'll be at Worlds, but
like a Diamond League.
When she's out on the circuit, she's going, because Keely Hodgkinson is not going to forget that she lost by less than half a second.
And they're the same age. They're both 20.
Yes, they're both 20. So this is going to be.
If you don't think that world record and that 800 is coming down the next
3 absolutely.
Years, oh my
this
God,
is going to be a thing.
World
record. No pun intended. It is going to be. It's going to be great. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see the transition from, the old heads are leaving and the new young people are coming in, and they are so animated. It's like, we don't even really need Sha'Carri, because TT got a lot of personality.
And she's sweet. Yeah.
And she's
very likable.
She's so adorable.
Abby Steiner is adorable, very likable.
Adorable. I still want to
Britton Wilson
in the face, but if anybody ever takes her off of her, if anybody wants to take her off a third leg, they're going to have to fight me. You better leave her third leg of the 4x1, and you better leave Elijah Godwin first leg of the 4x4 forever.
Man, that's his till he retires.
Until they can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'll fight for them too.
I agree. Well, who would you like to give a shout out to today?
Shout out to my club, Legacy Runners Athletic Club. I don't know if any of them are watching, but I love them to death. I'm glad I got back out there. Shout out to Zontavious Johnson, who is the head coach of the club and one of my closest friends. I'm glad he he didn't really give me a choice. He said, I'm bringing the club back, ma'am, and you gonna come and coach sprints and jumps. And I said, okay. Shout out to my family. Shout out to my granddad. He just celebrated his 89th birthday on Monday. So yay, we are glad that he is still here with us. And shout out to my mom, just because she's been kind of awesome lately. So I just want to give her some props.
Okay, Mama Snacks.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to also shout out to my family. I just saw my parents, so it was always wonderful to see them. And also, my sister, I saw her yesterday because she was driving back. She stopped through with her doggy, but she also brought us our guest today.
Yeah, and shout out to Jody with the impeccable timing, because this is my last week of practice was last week.
So I know, it was just perfect.
Able to come back.
I was like, I don't know if Stacks is done with track yet, but this would be the perfect guest. So it all worked out well. I'm glad I took a little breather, kind of re-energize myself.
We all need a break.
I was like, I can't do this every single week. And now I was like, instead of taking 1 week off, I'm going to just take 3. You know what I mean? Just completely reset. And I think
you could tell, like, your enthusiasm was up.
Yeah. Because it was just take a break, man. Sometimes you just need to take a break. So, but I'm back and I'm re-energized and I'm looking forward to the future, because Jackie was a great guest to come back to.
She was. That was really awesome.
Love her. So on that note,
this has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
Bye.